Hello guys, Sendo again. I haven't made a YouTube video in a while, but since we have new patch notes, I figured out this is a good time, and I think they're very interesting patch notes. So, especially that's why I thought it would be a good time to do a new video here. So, indeed, it's gonna be out 22nd of April, so in 1 week. And these are the Google translated patch notes, so of course we do have to keep in mind that Google Translate can always be wrong, but I think like major parts are gonna be correct. Also, some changes are not so important, so I might just go over them faster. And additionally, of course, I don't play with weapon in the game, so I don't necessarily have a much interesting to say about certain changes. But yeah, like at the start we have pretty minor changes, like 50 deco is painting your feet better, and roller is painting a bit better, and you know, flick size swinging a bit more, like pretty standard things that I don't think is gonna have so much more impact. Right laser is swinging a bit faster. Heavy, I was a bit surprised to see a heavy buff. I felt like heavy was getting more popular lately, even without any buffs. So I think this would like make it even more so. I play with Brian a lot lately, and he definitely thinks that heavy is the better choice than Charger on set of modes. So I guess we're gonna see even more of this sort of trend, I suppose. Likewise, I think we saw like a dually. Like I'd say like dualies are overall something they want to bring back. Like I think it generally makes sense, since dualies are kind of like the new thing in this game still, like the new class, and we didn't really see so many dualies lately. And I think just giving a small paint buff, it can go surprisingly long way. So just, you know, having the normal dualies Emperors paint a bit better, it can go a long way in my opinion. And I would like to see a situation where we have like Tenta deck, and then on the other hand we have Emperors, and then they're gonna coexist. So I hope we can get to a situation like that. Likewise with Sklugas with 7% less in consumption, I think it's interesting. I think the weapon itself, maybe, like, we have seen players who have made it work, but for it to be something that a lot of people can use, I don't know like what is needed. And again, it's hard to say if this is the buff it needed or not, but hey, 7% seems like a pretty nice number, so, you know, you never know. And we have, like, this was like we both with E-Liter and normal Charger, is that they buff unscoped and nerf scope a bit, but these are like very small adjustments, but it's still needed, because if we like go here, and this is on Set.Think, I will probably link it in the description below, but a new feature I did, and this is kind of like showing the top 500 tier list. So basically the appearance rate of the weapon in top 500. So for example, now we have splat zones, and you know, just like at the top there's like no like unscoped charges to be seen, and it's same in comp. Like playing unscoped is really really rare compared to the scoped versions, and this is kind of like, you know, giving a reason to use scoped basically. So people were saying, oh, it's just a buff, it's just a nerf. No, it's neither. It's just like adjusting the balance between the two, which makes sense because unscoped was basically like no reason to play it before. So maybe now it was a bit faster, and scoped paints a little less, so maybe there's like a reason to play unscoped as well, which would be interesting, because I do think scoped is really interesting with the charge hold mechanic. So yeah, we are getting the more like controversial changes, and maybe the change I have the most to say about is the Tenta nerf. But before that we have the Ballpoint nerf. So with Ballpoint they adjusted, if I'm reading this correctly, it's like so the Google translation says speed of the bullet was about 4% slowed while the distance was long and the range was short. Okay, this is like basically that it doesn't even matter to me. Like, it doesn't change my opinion because I don't play the weapon, so I cannot really say that much about it, and I'm sure there's gonna be like the official English translator later. But it's mostly that I think Ballpoint, in my mind, it's kind of like Explo, because Explo kept getting nerf, and people were like, why are you nerfing this? And in the end, in my opinion, it was justified in the end, because Explo is still like Like if you look like this is March 2020 splat zones and exploits like up there. And you can kind of like see in the graph like all the like nerfs it got along the way. Like it was super popular back in the day, then they nerfed it, but it's like a rising up. And in my opinion, like Ballpoint is kind of like the same thing. Like, okay, you can definitely see the peaks, but I don't think it's gonna be a weapon you can kill so easily, because it's no matter the changes you do, it's gonna have like very nice balance between the painting and then the slaying, and just like the utility of it is so different compared to other like backline-ish sort of weapons. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, how impactful the nerfs are in the end. But my prediction would be it's gonna be like Exploser, where it's just doesn't matter how much you nerf, it's gonna be coming up again and again. But yeah, the Tenta nerf, that's of course an interesting topic. So we have 40 frames more time for a shield to come up. And then we also have a 10% more in consumption with one shot. And I would like to argue that this change is against type of like a zombie, so all quick respawn Tenta gameplay, where it's just like constantly just feeding to enemy basically. And I think this change, in my opinion, like people were saying it's unjustified, I think actually this is justified. And I'm saying this because it's extremely unhealthy to the game if we have a Tenta who plays like this and it's even a slightly strong. It's just like complete like... I wouldn't want to play against it, like that's for sure. But I think if you play Tenta more like I do, I don't think it impacts me that much personally. Like in consumption of 10%, like from 0 AP, that's like nothing. That's like one sub of Ink 7 main. Like this is basically nothing. And likewise with the shield coming up later, normally it's fine. Like it very rarely comes down to 40 frames per, like 40 frames that you die or not die. It's more like you gotta play a bit slower, so it adds up, so the weapon becomes a bit slower, which is supposed to be the weakness of the weapon anyway. So to me it makes sense. Like this is reasonable change, and I think it's overall better for the game. And I don't know, probably can't see myself playing the weapon a lot since after the patch as well. Just gotta be, maybe like the all quick respawn 10 style might be a bit more harder to pull off now. Poison Misty, I don't care about that. Bowler, Bubble. So this is I think very smart changes in my opinion, because so this kind of like have to like look at the like how it actually gonna be, but basically how it reads to me is that they increase the time that it takes for a ball to blow up, but it's like 16 frames, so normally that would not affect whether you get a kill or not. But it might in some situations give the players game the bowler a bit more options to outplay the bowler, which I think makes sense. Like you should be able to outplay the bowler, and sometimes it's been a bit harder, especially with slower weapons. It's kind of like, well, it's just okay, I guess I'll just die, like cannot really do much against it. So having a bit more options to outplay it might actually be smart, but 16 frames is not that much, so in my opinion it's like good balance between the two. And then the really interesting part is that actually they buffed bowler, like the speed of it at least, for Aerospray, Luna, Ink Brush, as well as Undercover Brella. So now your weapon speed also affects the bowler, and I think this is so smart, because now we have like custom explode that was kind of like on the stronger side, like maybe not too strong, but on the stronger side, and these weapons were the weaker side. So the weaker side, they, aside from the Ink Brush, but like majority of them, and Ink Brush got its own share of nerfs. But basically what I'm saying is that a weapon that's strong, the bowler is gonna be weaker. Weapons that are weaker, the bowler is gonna be weaker, and it makes sense in terms of the game, like philosophy or design. Like the heavier weapons are not supposed to be like having that much mobility, so they don't have that much mobility in the special either, and the lighter weapons have more mobility, so they can have more mobility and movement options when it's special. So I think this is overall smart change, and I'm excited to see it play out. Bubble, okay, this is probably like, if I have to choose, this is probably like the smartest change in the whole patch. So this is like my number one thing that I want changed. They basically, in my mind, this is nerf to the bubble combo, where you had foil skeezer just like pop out of nowhere and instantly with bubble, and you're like, well, I guess I just die. Same with like Kenzo Junior and stuff. Like this just was not fun to play against. But actually, if you play like this, it's nerfed for you. If you don't, it's buffed for you, because bubbles lifespan is 2 seconds more. So think about situation in Clan Blitz where you have bubbles below the basket. Using it like that is buffed. It's just like if you wanna like insta kill people and get like easy quad then for Twitter clip, then this is nerfed. And how they did it is that the first shot is the smallest, second shot is a little bigger, and the third shot is the same size. So the first bubble is smaller, so the first bubble, the surprise bubble, has less range to get like a huge squad, and the second bubble is a bit more like that, and the third one is like the same size as before. So kind of like preventing people from getting like kind of like the cheap quads, I guess, cheap kills that way. I don't know. Personally, I think this seems really smart to me. Other than that, I think those were like the most important parts. I don't think the special changes. So L3 is getting still nerfed. That's kind of interesting. Like L3 has 10% more special again. Foil Skisser and 190 bubbles. Well, I was surprised it was 180 this long. Ink Brush 180 from 160, that makes sense to me. Like 160 Ink Brush was a pretty big joke in my mind, but all around, like the changes they made were good. Only blaster change was custom blaster, the 170. Okay, Nintendo, you don't like blasters. I think everyone knows this by now. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, we can pretend the glasses doesn't exist. I'm fine with it. Other than that, I guess the big thing that I think they are looking at is because one thing I would like them to do more is explain their reasoning when they do a change. So explain, like on some games, when the patch notes are released, the developers are kind of like, hey, this is why we did the change. So we saw this type of behavior in the data and we are trying to prevent it by doing this. Then people are easy to accept it like, okay, well, makes sense, or no, you're stupid. But at least you're saying they're stupid for the right reasons. And I think like stuff like, well, on my side again with this will be linked, but you see like all the like weapons that are placed really high in solo, and of course this is just like one metric, I would say. So yeah, for sure it's not like this is like only way how they balance, but it's stuff like this, and they get stuff like how many specials does Tenta get in all games, like data we cannot even dream of having. And they have like all sorts of like game data that they can base these changes upon. And I don't think like there's any patch where like 1 month after we would have been like this was a bad patch or anything. Like I think every patch has in the end been good. So I would say they have the benefit of doubt when making the changes. But of course there were some omissions as well. People were saying about like where's the Genshot nerf, but no, that's not how they do things, because Spider Shot got buffed in the last patch. There's never been a case where they buff weapon in one patch, then they nerf in the second patch. This is kind of like unhealthy, in my opinion, if they would do this, because it's kind of like, oh, we just like buff and nerf, buff and buff nerf. Like, you gotta have people time to adjust to the changes and see how where it naturally will sit. And then stuff like Junior, I was quite surprised. I was kind of expecting Junior to get at the very least like 190 special, maybe 200, and that was like probably the number one grievance people had about this patch. But I would maybe argue that there's a lot of aspects to it. First of all, I don't like, if you look at the Axe rank data again, like Junior is in fact not the most popular armor weapon. That's Ansep. So we have Junior here. Okay, this kind of crops badly, but Junior is like all the way to the like the B rank or whatever, and Axe rank. Like Ansep is in the S rank, and Rainmaker, and in DC we have a Chap in S and Junior in A, and Splat Zones were the high up, but still Chap is higher. Chap is highest in Clan Blitz as well. So Chap is kind of like more popular than Junior, and of course in solo part of this is because Chap is better at being self-sufficient, so getting kills on its own and stuff. But I think even in West let me ask you this way: Do you think this is the best this game can be? Do you think this is like we have like explored everything this game has to offer and it is just plain Junior on 23 maps? Because if you think so, then I don't think I have anything to say to you. But if you do, then maybe we can like agree that how popular Junior is not necessarily like the game's full potential, and not everything has to come with the patches. Like part of it is people being smart. Like I think like FLC that often has good opinions, in my opinion, has like this is basically like my opinion as well. Like it's not like you can just expect patch to deal with all your bad habits and all your like shortcomings of your playstyle. Like you also have to like adjust and develop your own playstyle. Like how many teams play like this against armor? Just don't care, just rush. I don't care. If you die, we die. No, you can do it differently, right? So it's stuff like this. So I would assume that Junior gets nerfed next patch, and if you were wondering, since people are always so confused, what's the final patch? It's not the final patch, in fact. The next update. We are talking about next update here. So maybe in the next patch Junior will get nerfed, but you cannot like you cannot like rely on the developers to just buff your weapons and nerf everything that's not your weapon. That's not basically what you should be doing, and I don't know, like I sympathize with super players playing Junior, wanting it to get nerfed, but I would argue that even that is more like it's kinda expected to play Junior, and you have to give a good reasoning not to play it, even if it should necessarily not be like that, I guess. But it's fair, like I can see that point of view too, like don't get me wrong, like I get it, it's annoying, but like I see stuff like no armor tournament, I'm like, we tried it in Splatoon 1 already, and this is just like horrible idea, and this is not how this is not like how anything works. And think about this, if I would say armor is banned from tomorrow, you cannot play it, don't you think there would be something else you would complain about? There's always gonna be something that's popular, and you die to something popular, you're gonna dislike the popular thing, like that's the way it is. It's not necessarily that it's strong, it's more like it's popular. And I don't know, just basically how I see it. But it's interesting to see how this patch plays out, so I guess the summary of it all would be, let's see how this plays out, let's see how the game will look like in 1 month, in 3 months, and then who knows what will be in the next patch, but yeah. Alright, well, let me know what you guys think about the patch. Any changes you liked, any change you didn't like, any change you were wanting aside from the Junior things that's, I guess, kind of popular. But other than that, thanks you guys for watching, and yeah, hope you have fun playing the new patch, and see you guys next time whenever I decide to make a new video. So, bye.